February is quite an electric eccentric month. I would be very adaptable in February, not holding on to too much at all. We're seeing not only the lunar Chinese New Year on Feb 17th, of course, but that's a solar eclipse. You know, it's not just a new moon, it's a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And we have not seen eclipses in Aquarius for nearly a decade. That's monumental. You know, that's something that we want to watch, like, which we know that eclipses and eclipse seasons are quantum portals of time and, you know, timelines collapsing, and it's a very, you know, it could be a time where you're very tired or wired, or, you know, there's lots of synchronicities and messages coming through. And then we have the final closing eclipse of that season in March. I mean, really until the astrological new year, which is the 21st of March.
You are listening to the Circle of Life podcast, where conversations on life, healing, and the human experience walk us home over and over again. I am your host, Ellen, and this is a home for the healing, a place for curious minds, big hearts, and a different kind of conversation. The Circle of Life podcast serves to invoke the deepest parts of you and remind you that you are your greatest resource. If you, like me, value depth, raw conversations, and a good old-fashioned dose of heart-to-heart medicine, this space is especially akin to you. Together, we'll remember the capacity of our human spirit and what it means to be healing, whole, and a part of this extraordinary circle of life. I hope you find as much medicine and resonance in the words and stories shared as I do in bringing them to you. It's truly such an honor to have you here. G'day and welcome.
Yeah, you're good to
I'm
go?
good. Very good, darling.
Amazing. Well, welcome to the show, beautiful Tiarnie. I'm so honored that you are here with us. I'm really excited for this episode because we are at, you know, the beginning of, you know, not technically, but the beginning of 2026. And I'm excited for us to step into this episode with some intentions around, you know, supporting people in integrating astrology into their lives as part of, you know, maybe setting up for the year ahead. I'm excited to get into just some of these, like, perhaps major astrological events that we might want to be, you know, like just have in our peripheral as part of how we move and weave through the world. I know my community are very much, you know, we align to those outer rhythms and that deeper sense of, you know, it's not just us, we are connected to so much more. And so we like to align and integrate the stars into how we weave through the world. And I'm just excited to talk about some of these amazing things that I think can be really preparatory, you know, in terms of how we're going to step into our year and what to look for and just sort of how to integrate it. So I'd really love to get started with who you are, right? Because you have this like incredible boldness and this beautiful flavor that you bring to astrology that has really like changed how I integrate astrology into my life. So I'd love to hear about you and the deeper purpose of, you know, why astrology is your chosen, you know, language, your chosen way of, you know, moving and serving in the world. And yeah, like just tell us a little bit about who you are and why this medicine.
Yeah, I love that question, Ellen. Why is this the chosen medicine? And I think that astrology chooses you. You know, I think that, you know, a lot of people would say that about their call or their passion or, you know, what really lights them up. I think that they would say it's just something that is embedded and known and just it feels eons old for me, if that makes sense. It's like I've been teaching astrology for hundreds of lifetimes, and it's just the remembering and the recall while I'm awake in this lifetime as a human again. And Yeah, look, I always, it's funny. It's a funny old little question, like, tell us about you. And I was thinking about it yesterday, because of labels and things like that. And I just don't really have any. And I was just like, who are you? I'm like, I'm Tiarnie. Like, that's who I am. And I've never tried to be anything else or try to fit into a box or, astrology's been my language since I was 9, since I was a little girl. And I've just navigated my whole life so fascinated by people, like I love people, why do people do that? And why do, anytime I'm watching something, right, what's the chart? What do they look like? Why do they go to prison so much? Oh, 12th house stuff, of course, like when I was watching Making a Murderer or, like just making, I've always had this deep fascination for psychology, I suppose, Um, and for me, astrology is not a fast track to psychology, but definitely really can help the setup of who someone is and why and where things are coming from. And what I love about astrology is it then gives you this chance to accept others. It's like, oh, well, their moon's in that sign and your moon's in this sign. So, of course, emotionally, you're going to react differently, even if it rubs you up the wrong way, even when it hurts, even when all of those things are playing out. There's this deeper understanding. It's like, oh, and I forgive again because your moon, you were having Chiron hit your moon. I get it. That's a hard transit. So I can see there's this, you know, and always just seeing beyond what's really here. I think living in the field my whole life, like in the field of consciousness, has just been like normal for me. Yeah, it's just been like, oh, it's just like, oh, you brush your teeth. Oh, cool. Like I talk to the trees. Like, and that's cool. Like that's completely fine. And, we smile at the moon in every phase. It just becomes integrated and integral, it's integral to just how you live. And I think that for me, it's just such a language of the soul. It's just your soul speaking. And I always think, hey, raw dogging life with no understanding, hey, that's cool too. I just think it's wild to not, I don't know, maybe have that desire or like really like plugging into the ether and plugging into the cosmic codes and the dance of the stars. And I mean, astronomy itself is, this incredible practice if we just watch Venus and, we get to see Venus as a morning star, as an evening star. So that's astronomy. And it's ancient. It's an ancient code. And I've always just said it's a secret, not so secret superpower. And when you really understand and embody and experience your chart and life and know your chart and know this, I mean, you know yourself, and I know everything else just sort of falls away, and life is seamless in its brutality and beauty, right? Like it's seamless in all of those things. And yeah, to try and describe myself is a funny old question, like I said, but that's why I like astrology. That's why it's my language.
Yeah. So what is your astrology like? What is your sun, your moon, and your rising?
Mm. So I'm a Taurus sun, but I'm also a Chiron Cazimi. So if you've got a planet exactly conjunct your sun, then it has to be exact. I think that there's some specifics in astrology that can be a little clinical and potentially arduous in getting to those like fun little things that you've got to do in astrology. But a cazimi is when a planet is exactly conjunct your sun, so it's in the king's realm. The sun is Apollo, right? So we know, and this is how I describe cazimis, is that we know that the king of the castle has many, many people in his castle, in his yard, working for him downstairs in the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. One person goes into his room, only one. And it's always just that one person. And if you have a Cazimi, it's that planet that is that one person that has access. And Chiron is a healer, a medicine man. And often a very Chironic person is someone who is an alchemist and doesn't seek a lot outside of themselves, is what I usually say. That's sort of it's very much internal transformation. Going through the Negrito, going through the alchemical process of transmutation and transformation, and Chiron is that. So my sun is, I have a Cazimi with Chiron, so I never want to just say I'm a Sun Taurus because I'm like, oh, but I'm a Cazimi. I've got a Cazimi there. I think that's important. My moon is in Cancer, who also happens to be exactly conjunct, which isn't a Cazimi because it's not the Sun, but it's the exact same degree as Ceres, which is the mother archetype, Demeter, Persephone's mother, and my rising is Libra. So I'm very Venusian. I'm very moony. I'm Aphrodite because my Venus then is in Taurus, where she's at home. But the caveat to that is my Venus is conjunct Algol, who is Medusa. And that is why I had to tell Ellen yesterday that I would wash my hair because I was going to have to be on video. And my hair, and all of my life, like I've never brushed my hair. I just don't, let's just not. I think my hair is always a thing for me. And then when I found out Venus, my chart ruler. So if we're looking at someone's sun, moon, rising, their rising sign has a ruler, right? Like because I'm a Libra rising, it's like, okay, so Libra, Venus is the ruler. So we're looking at where's Venus, what's Venus doing. That becomes a big part of my story as just as important as my sun and my moon. And so Venus for me is in Taurus, so she's at home, but she's exactly conjunct. Again, I've got all these very exact conjunctions in my chart, 26 degrees of Taurus, Algol, the Medusa star. And so, yeah, when I found that out later, after growing up and never brushing my hair and wanting dreads and my stepmother just being ghastly at, you just brush your hair, Tiarnie. I had long blonde hair my whole life. I've only been black for the last 6 years. And that was because my progressed ascendant was at 29 degrees Scorpio when I just had to be black, darling. But yeah, Venus is my chart ruler. She's the helmsman of my ship. And, she's at home in Taurus and conjunct Algol. So she's a little bit spicy and always knotty. Spicy and knotty at all times.
Yeah. To be clear, I did tell Tiarnie that she absolutely did not have to wash her hair to be on the show.
You did. But I was like, oh, it was real bad though. So I was like, oh, yeah.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is that, I think for a lot of folks, it's the sun, moon, and rising is obviously it's what's at the forefront, and it's what typically people relate to and recognize as, the main thing that they're looking at when it comes to their charts and astrology. Like it's just like, but what I'm hearing is like this is just like the tip of the iceberg. When we're looking at our charts, it's like the sun, moon, rising. What I'm hearing is there's so much more. There's layers to this. Right. When it comes to, how these, I don't know what the technical term is, but like your sun, your moon, your rising, like there's so many other aspects to that play a role, in terms of how, you might be experiencing something, in life, or like a certain transit you might be moving through, or season of your life. Like it's not just that black and white is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the position of your sun in your chart's just as important as what sign it's in, because that's why not all Gemini suns are the same. It's not why all Taurian suns are the same. It's like, where is that sun? Are you a day chart? Are you a night chart? If you're a night chart, like your moon sign, you will probably feel more connected, So there is, and some of this is just, it is basic, and it can be basic. I think that fundamentally, I have a lot of planets in Taurus. I'm a very simple gal, if you can't use it in every single day life and embody it and experience it and feel it and know it, well, all the terms and even the very clinical stuff and all that stuff can just get a little lost in translation. I want it to be real, and I want you to feel it, and I want it to be not palatable in like, yay, palatable, like this is nice, but like you can feel it, you can taste it, you can touch it, you can smell it. Like it's like, I understand what that transit felt like because here we are, like I can reflect back. And I know that we're going to talk about some astrology of the year, but I've been talking a lot about that. I've been talking a lot about our Pisces house and reflecting back while everyone's like Neptune's in Aries, everything's Aries, Aries, Aries. Yes. Please, let's absolutely seed this, and we're being rebirthed for sure. At the same time, it's like actually when a big planet moves out of a sign, it's like all of the pieces just come together. And hopefully a lot of people have been feeling that at the beginning of this year. It's like, actually, I'm seeing things a lot more clearly. Oh, those things I've been sort of working at, like, oh, boom, I'm getting the recognition or the receiving something. So, oh, everything's just sort of changing and falling into a different place, whatever that is, whatever the work you've been doing is. It's not always going to be what you expect. You know, it's going to come in different ways, shapes, and forms. But I think that it's important to reflect as well as look forward, as well as stay in it. You know, all of those things when it comes to astrology.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful doorway into a very specific transit that we've just completed with Neptune moving out of Pisces and into Aries. And I really wanted to speak to you about this today because for anyone tuning in that doesn't know this about me, I'm a Gemini Sun, Cancer Moon, Aquarius rising, and I'm a night chart. So I do actually tend to resonate a lot more with my Cancer Moon, like that deep, 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 deep emotional depth. And you know, from what I've been reading and just what I've been able to extrapolate from, you know, just places, because I'm not an astrologist at all, but there's my internal experience, and then I take that and I tune that to what, you know, what feels resonant and aligned and alive when I am absorbing and consuming information about the stars. And a transit that has been, you know, supposedly quite difficult for mutable signs, which is your Gemini, Gemini, Virgo, what's the other one?
Sag,
Sag,
Pisces.
Pisces, that's right.
Yeah.
And that has been Neptune in Pisces. And that is something that I think that we just moved out of that now, didn't we, today?
Yep.
Like into
We
Aries.
did.
Yeah. So just to your point around, you know, reflecting, and I just want to give people like a really tangible way, like or a tangible experience to sort of do that. And I think this is a great place to do that because, and I'll have you speak into this in a moment, but Neptune in Pisces has been a huge, very long transit, like years, right? Like years long. And we have literally just, you know, that Neptune has just moved into Aries, and what a beautiful opportunity to reflect on what those last however many years have been like. So just to your point around, you know, using this as a way to reflect on what has been happening in our lives as these planets and these things transit and move through. I think this is a really great one to just leverage at this time. So could you speak into that, please?
Yeah, and I just, you know, what's really like present is this liminality that we're in. I mean, it's sort of like the world is in its own retrograde, which is coming from one of my teachers as I'm, you know, in this very neo-Jungian 7-month course that I'm in. And he just said like the world is in a retrograde. And I'm like, yeah, it's like this is the liminal space. It's not just it was that and now it's this, you know, it's like this in between. And I remember before 2020, I felt like a crazy woman in 2019 going, everything's going to change in 2020. Like what's happening in 2020 will affect every single person in the world. And I'm like, what am I saying? Like, what could that even be? And I didn't even think of like an illness or anything like that. I did not even think, but I was just like, it's going to be big. And we move into what happened in 2020, which happened 500 years ago, which was the Renaissance. And, you know, and so that's why I've sort of been like ushering, I'm like, we're in a Renaissance period. You know, this is very rare. Like us astrologers have been frothing this and like looking at the 2020s for the decade before. And, you know, sometimes like on my podcast, I feel like all I'm doing is like preparing you for the next year. And that's what I did in 2024. Let me just say that, like, pretty much every bloody podcast episode in 2024, I'm like, get ready for 2025. 2025 is going to look like this. It's going to be the in-between, la, 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 la. And it's been pretty, you know, that 9 year, you know, was really big. And now we're still in a sense of liminality space, which is just this in between, which is midlife. Midlife is liminal, right? Like that's why people get very uncomfortable in midlife. We're having midlife transits when we're in sort of late 30s to mid 40s. Like we're having transits that we all get at the same time, you know, and society or psychologists or whatever have deemed it as midlife. You know, even Jung himself, like the first 40 years we're sort of preparing the outer self, but it's the second 40 years where things, you know, become real or whatever, right? Like it's Jung, of course, he was an astrologer as well, but we're coming into this space where today, the 27th of January, Neptune is landing in Aries for the next 14, 15 years. And he's just come from Pisces. But the biggest scope of this and what's so significant, you know, I was doing the dishes last night with my family around me and I'm like, we're in a moment in time, everyone. Everyone's like, oh, why? And I'm like, because this is it. This is not only Neptune moving into a new sign, but finishing a 165-year cycle. But remember that Pisces is the birth canal, it's the water, it's the womb. Like we're all being exited very, very swiftly and quickly out of that womb. It's no more time for poor me, I am a victim. Like there's just no time for that shit anymore. And we've had to deal with a lot of that because for the past 23 years, Uranus and Chiron and Jupiter and Lilith and the nodes, like we've had not one thing out of Pisces, none, right? So it's a very interesting time, and we've still got a little bit longer to go, but Neptune is now landed in Aries for the next 15 years. And absolutely, like this is cardinal fire. This is war and warrior, the spiritual warrior. This is like flame on, burn the fucking bridge and move forward. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's Aries. It's the birth. We've come out of the womb, we've exited the womb, and then things will follow and flow on from that. But we know that just like you can't plant a seed and the flowers the next day, it's the same thing. We're in that space now. And Neptune is, I've written here that this is this emerging from the womb. This is us being on our own sacred mission, exploring new realms and terrains. And this is pioneering our own way. If you think about Neptune and Pisces, Neptune's at home in Pisces. Like this is where Neptune's like the most comfortable, like this is easy, but it's also sort of like amplified and on steroids, right? It's the final end of the zodiac. Neptune has gone around the entire 12 signs in 165 years, and now he starts again. And the fact that Saturn's sort of hot on his tails, Saturn's coming in too, Feb 14, so it's happening, and it's like, whew, you can feel it. Like there's this anticipation, this mystery that we're all going into, this new terrain. And fire is very different to water. You feel water to fire. Yeah, you can feel that energy because it's been so, again, like lucid dreaming, Pisces, flowing, even, that whole poor me, it's just, the frog in the pot has just been boiling and boiling, and now it's hot and the fire is here. And how synchronistic that, of course, we move into the year of the fire horse coming up in February. Of course, it's a collective 1 year as we begin again. There is so much ushering in this new change, yeah?
Yeah, I hear you. So, like, as you said, we're entering a 1 year. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so that's new. Like fire from water, like I really feel that. And when I personally attune to that in my life, when I reflect on the last, 12, 15 years, I can see how I have been stripped back. This is how I've been describing it to, my community and my clients, is like, I feel like I've just been stripped back, and all these ways that I have just been I've adopted these ways, these survival patterns, these ways that I've been moving through the world that served me for a time that just cannot come with me. Like they will not hold up to what's coming. And I don't know what that is specifically, but all I know is that it's just been stripping me back. And every time I feel like I'm done, it's like you go in for another round. And that's what it has felt like for me. And it has been exceptionally difficult. And what I have learned throughout that time, because I've been reflecting on this as well, is, I have learned how to stay, just to stay in that really uncomfortable liminal space, as you describe it, like that really in between space, between skins, between, death and rebirth, like just to sit in that space that is just so uncomfortable sometimes. And I can really feel this when I attune to the collective at the moment right now. There's something coming, and I'm not sure what that is, but there's a lot that's also shedding, and just being like right at the tail end of that snake and just sitting in that experience has been, really uncomfortable, really intense, and really also there's like this underlying excitement for me as well. Like I feel like I don't know what is going on, but like there's also this level of like excitement too that's coming with me. So I'm feeling it. Yeah. And so what can just I know there's so much, like when you speak about these things, like it's so clear to me that there is just so much like your wealth of knowledge, your breadth of knowledge, it's so stunning. I can feel it when you speak. Like you speak about these things in such a way where I can feel like it's layered. Like there's so many layers to this beautiful, beautiful medicine. And just for like, if we can just dial it in, just like to be a little bit more specific, how, like, what would you recommend to people tuning in who, like, as you said, like we're just moving, Neptune's just coming out of Pisces and into Aries, like what might we want to reflect on? And like over what period of time would we want to maybe just like take a moment to just reflect on, is it like the last 10 years, the last 15 years? Like what specifically might we want to focus on to reflect and specifically integrate? You know, integrate the learnings, because I would never speak for everyone, but you know, for me and my Piscean friends, I have a lot of Pisces in my life. I have a lot of Gemini, like Gemini attract Gemini. I really feel that, like just a lot of the mutable signs in my life who I have witnessed just from the sidelines go through immense struggle, immense hardship. And obviously when we go through these things, you know, these turns in the spirals, these level ups, there's also, it's deeply hard, but there is also so much medicine that we can pull from it when we sit still and we get sober and we take that time to reflect and pull that medicine in, and we recall and we connect the dots. And I just wonder, like, is there something specific that we should be focusing on when it comes to the reflection piece so we can integrate what has kind of been unfolding for us over the last, you know, 15 years?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I just want to say I love the word stay. When you just use that word, I just stay. I was like, yeah, that's nice. That's good. And then also what you wrote, because I'm always writing notes. My Mercury's in Gemini, so I'm always going to be taking notes and writing, and reflecting on words that I love, that light me up. Words are exciting to Gemini placements, and the things that cannot come with me. And that's really so prevalent, I think, that we are moving into something potentially mysterious and unknown, but we know what can't come with us. But when we want to drag that with us, when we're still holding on with the claws, I've been saying this for a long time. Unfortunately, your life is going to get exceedingly more difficult. That's just the law, LORE. That's just the cosmic law. If we're holding on so tightly, you know, that scratches everything I've ever let go of, you know, that wonderful quote, anything I've ever let go of has claw marks on it. I think David Wallace said that, but yeah, you know, it's just like, there are a lot of things that can't come with you into this new space, whether that's people, jobs, habits, relationships, ideas about yourself, ideas about the world, literal possessions. Like there's a lot. It will be varied for different people. But in your question of what to reflect on or a time period, like one of the most important things I think that you can do as we wake up from this Pisces slumber and get ready to birth a new spiritual order is look at the house in your own chart that is ruled by Pisces. That's the first point of call. Like if we focus on the micro, it naturally ripple butterfly effect into the macro. But of course, most people have that the other way around. It's like macro, like I'm focused on everything external. When everything else calms down, then I will be okay. Look at what's going on over there. They're you know, lots of distortion, all the things. And then they've got nothing, you know, they're sort of like, especially with all this mutable, it's just like I'm a kite with no string, or I'm a log in the ocean just floating around. Like I don't have anything anchored to hold on to. So right now on a micro level, you go to your own chart, you pull it up, astro.com. Don't fuck around with CoStar, and no real astrologer works with those sorts of apps. And if they're the sorts of astrologers you're following, I mean, it's a very big, hard one for people, for some of us who have been living astrology for decades and decades, and then now everything's chat GPT'd, and you can see these 1 million follower things on, but it's all just the same. It's all, you know, like I've unfollowed all of those myself because now you can just see that it's chat GPT, like they're not actually doing anything. So be very discerning with where you're getting all of your information from. I mean, that's on every level, let's be honest. But astro.com is the OG astrology website. Liz Green, she's an actual astrologer. She's, if you go to England, you're going to go to the shop that's the astrology shop. Like, this is OG stuff. Like, and if anything, if we're being called to go back to the ancients and to the old ways, like, as a part of us birthing a new water, there's something really steeped in tradition, connection, Mama Earth, like what's real, like what's real. And Liz Green is real. So astro.com, find Pisces in your chart, find what house that is, and then this gives us, I mean, like I said, the Pisces transits begun actually 23 years ago. Like, that's when Uranus first moved there. So if you really look at it, for 23 years, there's been some sort of Pisces initiation. Everything is cycles. And yes, in a few years, Lilith will come back and, like, we'll still get things, but we're not having these big planets like Uranus, Neptune. Saturn won't be here again for 30 years. So if we just think, I'm going to be in my mid-70s. The next time Saturn moves into Pisces, we start to put things into perspective. It really, again, like you said, narrows, hones in on what to do. When you go, hey, no one living has ever experienced Neptune in Aries, unless they're 165, which, maybe there are some ancients wandering the Amazon or something like that. We've all experienced on some level Saturn in Aries, because that was just 30 years ago. So if you're over 30, you will have. If not, you're going to have a Saturn return and all the things. None of us will have experienced Uranus in Pisces, because again, this was an 84-year ago transit. So we've experienced some very long, big, revolutionary, cataclysmic transits to our Pisces house. Jupiter comes back every 12 years, like the nodes come back every 10. Like, so we're going to have the cycles, but right now, especially, I mean, Mercury's about to retrograde in Pisces, February to March. So, I mean, like, we're going to have a lot of time to reflect if we really want to dig deep. But what I'm finding is, as the planets move out, and they continue to do so, the reflection becomes clearer. Like, reflection becomes clarity, which is actually what's really cool here. It's like distilling something, right? We just distill, and then it's clear. Like the consommé that you'll make, and it'll be cloudy and cloudy and cloudy, and then it's pristine. And I think that that's the little bit of energy that we're in, the little bit of a vortex that we're in, because the Pisces story isn't over quite yet, because Saturn still has to move into Aries, because we've got to get through a very big Pisces season coming up in 2026. I mean, this ain't a Pisces season to sleep on. Mars is in Pisces. Now, Mars has not been in Pisces for 2 years. Mercury is going to retrograde fully in Pisces from beginning to end. I mean, Mercury's spending, so much time in Pisces. It's a nightmare, but it's going to give us this time to reflect. So whatever house in your own chart Pisces rules, it could be relationships, it could be, you might be a Pisces rising, it might be you, yourself, and you're going to be going, hallelujah, when all this moves. It could be your 10th house of career, your 11th of friendships and legacy. We look at our own charts as a micro to integrate what has actually happened, because now we're birthing a new water. Now we're moving into and emerging into a new world. And the Aries house will be switched on, especially for the next 3 years, because, Saturn and Neptune will be in Aries. We haven't gotten out of that yet. And then it will be Neptune by himself in Aries. So I hope that answered that, just for people to, again, look at their own charts. I'm not for the collective, but my South Node's in Aquarius, I've sort of been there and done that with humanity. South Node, yeah, I don't want to live in a cohort or not a farm full of people, like, leave me alone. I'm a North Node in Leo gal. But for me, it's about, how do you stay sovereign within the collective? And that's often one of the harder things to do. How do you stay anchored within all of the white noise, even when you love humanity? Because that's there for me. Like, it's always been there for me. I love people, I love wanting, like, it's a passion. But it's just like, anchor into the micro. I've always come back like that. Then that trickles out if you're anchored and sovereign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this reflection point, I think that we are really, yes, we are reflecting on 23 years, which seems like a long time. But of course, the past 15, Neptune has been sort of that final transpersonal planet to move through the final sign of the zodiac. You know, Uranus is about to move into Gemini this year, which is again, it's going to stay there for 7 years. Again, this very cerebral rebirth of information, you know, like technology, travel, like all these things. Like we're moving into fire and air, and we know that what does air do to a bushfire, right? Like it can make it be out of control. So there's a lot of information that we're receiving in this little, like you said, and staying with that too, whilst being really open to this emergence, this sort of, you know, this crack open of like a seed with the green, you know?
Yeah, totally. And that's why I feel integration is so important at this time. You know, you spoke about being anchored amidst the collective, you know, and I find integration to be one of those pieces that sobers me up, you know, like it really sobers me up. It brings me and orients me back into my internal world, and I start to plug into my own experiences, and I start to connect dots and, you know, bring forward the medicine and the lessons, and that becomes that really anchors me, that really grounds me, that really brings me into that space where I'm able to discern. Like it brings me into a space of discernment. And so what I'm hearing is that, you know, because we like we're sort of like really here in this in between right now, like that, pulling up your own chart, looking at what house your Pisces sits in, and then perhaps reflecting on like whatever that is, you know. So my Pisces sits in house 2, right? So what is the theme of house 2? What does that represent?
That's all things to do with, you know, your value, your money, you know,
Okay.
everything to do with finances, slipstreaming. It's just like, oh, I've had to recalibrate many things. And especially in Aquarius rising with the Pisces second house, you know, you're going to see that you've had to align what you spend money on. Like, you know, is it worthy of your time and your value, you know? And because Pisces is slippery. It's like, oh, I just like, also that money slipped through my fingers. Like, where did that go? You know, like but it's also about these sort of priorities and safety. I mean, the second house, if we think of the ascendant as your birth, the second house is like the comfort of your you know, your mother and love and feeling secure. So it is what keeps us secure as well. But with Pisces, it's very lucid. It's very, actually a lot of, you know, sort of second house Neptunian Piscean themes are like, actually it's spiritual things that I want to spend my money on. Like, oh, I am going to go and do a, you know, a meditation course and these sorts of things, you know, but it's about that recalibration of my value and my worth and my priorities, you know, and actually that I'm worth something, like especially if you, because it's money, like if I have a business, or am I being charged as much as I'm worth, or maybe I'm like underselling myself, undervaluing. So I'm certain at some level, like there's all of these things that have been swooshing around in the waters the past 12 years, you know, and even more so 20, as things have just been coming and going, and you know, lots of lessons. Our Pisces house, I mean, it's quite remarkable that that's happened, you know, like that we've got this 20 years. And for some of us, I mean, you know, I was in my 20s then, so I've got like a good chunk of being able to sort of navigate that in my own chart. For some younger folk, you know, it'll be a little bit of a different experience for them, but that reflection and that integration of whatever house, because just remember, a house is an area of your life in a way, yeah. So second house for you, money and possessions and those sorts of things, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, for me, that's super interesting because I organically have been reflecting on these things, you know, and it's been something that's been coming up for me is like balancing out this undercharging, overgiving, and like bringing that into a point where that feels reciprocal for me. So, and these are things that have played out for me again and again and again and again over the, you know, definitely over the last decade. So yeah, so what I'm hearing is, you know, go to astro.com, pull up your chart, look at where Pisces sits in your chart, what house it's under, and then I'm sure a swift Google search will tell you, or maybe astro.com will tell you what that theme is, you know, for you in your life, and then to just, you know, reflect on how that, you know, what's been coming up for you over the last, you know, decade or 20 years, and just see if there are any themes, and start to sort of connect some dots and just start to really yeah, like dig in and just reflect on some of these things, because you said before, you know, like you can't, there's some things you just cannot take with you. And if you try and you're like clinging and you're dragging and you're holding on, then it's going to perpetuate that suffering, or, you know, just make it so much harder than it needs to be. And I love that, you know, integration is a very practical way that we can do this. It's something we can do. It's something we can actually go, open our journal, pick up our pen, and dig in. Like it's something we can actually sink into. It orient us back into ourselves, back into a place of discernment. We can pull the lessons, you know, and then we can decide from that place with some clarity, like you said, we move forward. You know, what is coming, what are we taking with us, and what absolutely is done and cannot come with us without some sort of detriment to our, you know, ourselves, our health, our well-being, our bank accounts, our relationships, our hearts, like whatever it might be. So I love that. That's super practical. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that right now, like the clarity is good, you know, like we're getting clear on that Pisces house, like things are landing in a different way than sometimes when you're in it. And that's what I've really noticed the past decade with my own transits. It's like, yeah, I know Uranus is going to do this and go through this house. I'm like, oh yeah, I see it very like, yeah, that absolutely played out. That was so like textbook, cool. Yeah, you know, bought a house, sold a house, all these cool things that are very literal. And that's the thing. Astrology can be very literal. It's not just always magical dragons and eggs, you know, like it's not always just rainbow flutters and I had a spiritual attunement. It can be very, you lost money, you bought a house, or, you know, divorce, death, all those things. It can be, you know, your car broke down. Like it could be, and it often very much is very, very literal, more so than anything. But what I'm really noticing myself is this reflection point, which is what I've been doing since Uranus moved back into Taurus late in 2025, is really seeing that Taurian story come to an end. And I'm like, whoa, like now I see this and this and this. And that's the cool thing about hindsight, right? Like, is that we get this incredible view that we can go, now I can solidly land in that and I can really understand that experience or that transit. And we can do that all the time, like not just with the huge planets, because they take long times. Like we're going to feel the very big burst of Neptune and Saturn in Aries, like it's going to come in, like the world's on fire, it's going to continue to be on fire. Like all these things will happen. And then all of a sudden we're going to get into a rhythm with it. And then, you know, and then on the peak and the ending, that's when it sort of flares up again. And that's sort of what has happened. We've been in it for so long, like the frog in the water, like we've just been in it. And then all of a sudden, you know, from last year and this year with the world and what's going on, like that makes people sort of wake up in certain ways, I suppose, as well, especially if they're not doing work on themselves or whatever. But the clarity that then comes, which I think is assimilating as well as the integration. It's like, I can actually like, I'm metabolizing this now. Like I'm metabolizing this. I can see this now. Like this is what I'm metabolizing. And I think that this is, that's what I've noticed in the transits myself personally. I'm like, oh, wow. Like I'm getting it, you know, it's like, I can know it, but then I'm like, oh, it's here. It's here.
Yeah, definitely. And I find for me personally, and just in my line of work as well, is, you know, when you're in it, whether that's like you're in, you know, something that you just cannot see the forest of the trees or whatever that expression is, it's when you're in it, the work isn't necessarily to see, the work is to stay. You know,
Exactly.
it's a different work that's required when you're in it. And then when you get to the other side of it, that's when, you know, you actually have that zoomed out perspective. You can now see it. And it just becomes part of, how you now integrate it and, like you said, assimilate it and metabolize it, you know, metabolize it in your being, in your body, in your bones, in your flesh. So gosh, I love this. So I'm wondering, so I really wanted to speak into, or have you speak into just some of the, like what, I know there's so much, right? Like when you speak about astrology, I can feel that you're like, oh my God, there's like this, and this. But what are some of the, you know, most significant, you know, dates or transits or experiences that we might want to, especially as women in this space who do want to align with the energies of the stars and you know, set ourselves up and prepare ourselves to the best of our ability for, you know, what's coming? What are some significant dates or transits that we might want to, you know, just have a little dial on? And you can go deeper into this, like if you're tuning in, I will link up Tiarnie's podcast, because I know she will go deeper into this. She'll provide all the context, and you will bring through all that beautiful medicine in that detailed, more extraordinary way. But what are just some of the things that we might want to have a little dial on, especially this year, 2026?
I think there's, I don't know if there's a month not to look at this year. Like it's big in a very different way than 2025. Our eclipse seasons are pretty monumental. So this year, because we're again birthing a new order. So February is quite an electric eccentric month. I would be very adaptable in February, not holding on to too much at all. We're seeing not only the lunar Chinese New Year on Feb 17th, of course, but that's a solar eclipse. It's not just a new moon, it's a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And we have not seen eclipses in Aquarius for nearly a decade. That's monumental. That's something that we want to watch, which we know that eclipses and eclipse seasons are quantum portals of time and, timelines collapsing, and it's a very, it could be a time where you're very tired or wired, or there's lots of synchronicities and messages coming through, and then we have the final closing eclipse of that season in March. I mean, really until the astrological new year, which is the 21st of March. I mean, we've still got planets retrograde right up until then. So, a green light of all planets direct is from March 21st through till that first week of May. And a green light in a way that, okay, some extra momentum comes, we can move forward. Retrogrades are really important, and I want to really give them that space as well. Like, we need to reflect, we need to remember, we need to rest, we need to remind, we need to rework. All of those rewords come in when it comes to retrogrades. We need to, because retrogrades at some level are sort of like a integration. Like, it's, let's assimilate that the planet's moved through this for 5 months, and now it's going to retrograde. So we can really assimilate. But when all the planets are direct, things can be quite fast moving in already what is a fast moving, galloping year that we're going to be in. So staying really anchored is really important, I think, this year. The next eclipse season is September. September is definitely a month to watch. What have I got here? I've got 400 million things, as I always do. August, sorry. August is eclipse season. Sorry, not September. September is the 1 month in a 1 year. That's why September's on my radar. It's the only 1 month in a collective 1 year this year. So there's something there, but August is our 9 month. It's a 9. It's eclipse season. It's quite big as well. There's a lot of ingresses this year that are quite monumental. There's some big times, but I would, the nodal shift in July, August is really fascinating, especially if you're a businesswoman, or you're wanting to, start something or get in alignment with your purpose and your calling. This is knowing your Aquarius and Leo houses are really important this year, because again, we're getting that new moon, a solar eclipse in Aquarius. So February is going to be really interesting in a way that it's setting things up. You're going to be able to, I don't know, perhaps get some insight and some interesting downloads. Again, it's sort of let go or be dragged, just that sort of energy as well, because it's very eccentric. Eclipses for me are important, milestones during the year. So for us, remember, February, March, and August are our eclipse seasons. But this February, March one is interesting because we're in Aquarius season. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Uranus is at the end of Taurus and will not be there for another 84 more years. So this is somatic, it's visceral. We're feeling it in our bodies, like we're getting the zaps, we're getting the zings. We're either not sleeping or sleeping too much. Like, there's all the things going on with our physical vessel. But Uranus is the planet I describe that associates with eclipses. It's very, again, it's eccentric. It's, it's here, it's there, it's pivotal, it's moving, it's unexpected, it's out of the blue, it's surprises. So, being prepared is nice, and then trusting the mystery, right? Like, I think that we need to have a foot in both worlds. Like Hermes can go into the underworld, but he can come back into this world. And if we can live in both worlds, there's something really magical, because that means that you can hold your stay, like you say, in liminality. Like that's what's so profound about being able to live in both worlds. And not too many people can do it, I don't think. I think it's a bit of a skill that you've got to like or or work on, but that's sort of what's happening, is this sort of, this skill of staying and surrendering. And it's always so it's always so hard to sort of narrow things down when we're in such big times. 2026 is just as big as 2025 in a different way. I'm hearing, I don't know, on the ethers, 2027. I'm just like, everything's in its signs already. Like I don't, I'm not like 2025 and 2026 for me are like these, and 2020 obviously, but like it's like we're in the crux of this big Renaissance decade. I mean, the whole decade's going to be pretty big. I mean, it's sort of like life is big, like it's all going to continue to be like this. So that's where knowing your own chart and understanding just how to maneuver with these energies, I find that being forearmed with that stuff can be really helpful, because you can't take away the mystery or the magic, nor do you want to. I think when you're an astrologer, or, this is your passion, for me, it's not like I have to go, oh my God, like, every single little thing, I won't go out of the house because of this. Like, you're not living in a cage. Astrology isn't a cage, because I see a lot of people, online these days, it's like, oh, let go of us, astrology is just a crux, or whatever. Like, and it's like, but it's a mystery, it's a mystery wrapped in an enigma, like that's astrology. It's cycles, but cycles repeat themselves. That's the thing that's cool about the world and the earth and the universe and the stars, is like there's this cyclic nature. And it's not, Neptune in Aries has come back, and the last time it was the Civil War, right? Like we've got this thing. And I mean, realistically, I mean, you could nearly say there's like a civil war happening, like in some way, shape, or form, especially in America, right? So it's sort of like it repeats but different. It repeats but different. It's an echo, it's an echo, it's a rhythm, it's a reminder, but the cycles come back, and uh, so knowing, and that's why your chart, it's so fascinating to follow things in your own chart, to live them. And that could just be the sun for 1 year. Just follow the sun around your chart so that you can experience what it feels like to have that area in your life lit up for a month. Of course, the moon moves very quickly. Every month it goes around your chart, your whole chart, whereas the sun will stay in a sign for a month. And, and then we've got all of the layers. And of course it's forever, but there's some really beautiful, exciting, like it feels like a great year, like it's different already. We're feeling this anticipatory butterflies, like it's here. And and again, when you can really tune in and focus on you and the micro and your chart, and life is fragile, this is all going to come to an end. And we're getting some big perspective sort of wake ups, right? Like, and it's all, any question you've got, astrology is the answer, is what I say. And love, of course. Love's always the answer to every question, but astrology always. How people have, I've got a crystal for that, I've got an oil for that. I'm like, astrology will give you that answer. And if you're in midlife, you're going through some pretty big midlife transits as well. So that Pluto and Scorpio generation, you guys are going through a Pluto square. Neptune and Capricorn generation, you guys are going through your Neptune square. So, there's some breakthrough points that need to happen. There's some there's so much. I hope that that's given some context.
That's beautiful. And what I'm taking away from what you're sharing, at least for me, is that astrology itself is an anchor. We've been talking about anchoring in and, really just trying to get those roots in and stay grounded among it all. And it's, astrology can be, not for everyone if you don't want to, of course, but like what I'm hearing, and at least what it is to me, is that astrology itself is an anchor. When you tune into, these things, it's actually quite anchoring, and it's a supportive way to just dial in and just, feel into what actually is required of you. Like you said, let go or be dragged. And it's like, there is mystery there. And that mystery is, deeply associated with the unknown, which is often, you know, for a lot of humans, that's scary. You know, that can
Mm.
trigger survival. That can, you know, trigger those patterns that just want to numb out and go and just not be in that and not practice and cultivate that skill, as you termed it, of staying, you know. But when you have, you know, at least this is my experience, and I integrate a lot of astrology into my work with my clients as well, because it's playing out whether you're attuned to it or not. It's happening
Mm.
whether you're attuned to it or not. So I personally like to be attuned to it. I'm always attuning to my body and myself first. And then what I'll often find is there is just this resonance that I can then
Mm.
dial into as well. And that's supportive, and it anchors me. It supports me in knowing sort of how to resource myself. And you know, I come from a somatic and breath work and, you know, trauma healing background. So, you know, I anchor into a lot of those things as well. But what I find is that the what's the word? The one thing that is just so constant that I have been able to dial into and anchor myself into is astrology itself. Is actually
Mm.
this it's quite, for me, quite foundational. Like it roots me in place.
Mm.
So yeah, what I'm hearing is that astrology is in and of itself an anchor.
Mm. Yes, I actually wrote that down. I like to hear it like that. Astrology is the anchor. It just so is, it just, yeah, I mean, it's everything, like I find it's just like this, it's everything. People go through midlife or they go through divorce or they go through this, and it's like, oh, well, there's the transit in your chart. And even when you can see the transit coming up or you know about it, it's just like being prepared for the weather. It's just like going, oh, there's a thunderstorm. Okay, I take an umbrella. And then, oh, it was either cataclysmic and the umbrella did nothing or the sun shone. Either way, it's it's preparation in a way, but surrender. Like that's the cool thing about astrology. It's not this like I'm just holding on to it in this controlling way and it will turn out like this because you still don't know. There's this level of unknown, but then there's themes. It's like, oh, it'll be this sort of theme that will play out, or this sort of, yeah, activity that could happen, or so on and so forth. So it's like, it does become a pillar in your life to be able to plug back into, and it's you, and it's this this trust that goes beyond anything tangible. And when you're living from that space, I don't know, things change, life changes, and there's this effortlessness. And it's not to say that we don't have brutal moments or we're not in the underworld hung on the hooks, because we will be at some point. We've got to descend and then we've got to choose to ascend, but then we've also sometimes got to choose to descend. Like we have to have a descent and an ascent in our life as a human. This is psychology, not just astrology. This is psychology. And if you're hanging yourself too long in the descent, well, what of course, that's going to be a lot. There has to be a choice to ascend, just like Persephone, 6 months in the upper, 6 months in the lower. She's the queen of the underworld, right? But the thing is that, and while she's down there, it's barren. It's autumn and winter. That is Persephone in the underworld. But then there has to be this choice to re-emerge. And like I said, this is psychology, not just astrology, right? Like that's why these two are so like a power play, a duo of and again, it's not like it makes life easy because there's so much of this like, but are you saying it's a good transit or a bad transit? I'm like, yes to both. It just is. There's no answer to that. Does that mean that all of my stuff's going to be good because you've said this, or bad? Neither and or both. Yeah, because it can't just be one or the other. If we're not fully experiencing grief, we'll never fully experience joy. And there has to be, and it's the same with astrology. It's the same with what's going on. It's the same with these transits. It's doesn't make the hard go away, but it gives you the umbrella so that you can endure the rain. Like that's just how it lands. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Mm.
that. It's you said it's like preparing for the weather. It's
Mm.
like it doesn't mean you don't go outside.
Mm.
You just choose your attire accordingly, and you still
Yeah.
participate in life. It doesn't mean you just go and sit in a locked, closed door room and just like wait till it passes. It's like, I'm just going to put on my jumper and I'm going to take my umbrella and I'm still going to go get outside and experience life, because that to me is like the participation in life is where you're going to have the feedback, you know, like there's no feedback in you're just sitting in nothingness. You've got to participate. And yes, it requires courage and it's not always easy, but that's what we've signed up for. You know, that's why we're here. And so that feedback is important, because it gives us something to then go and, you know, do something with if we like. So, yeah, it's like
I love that. Participate. I love that. I love the feedback point there that you've just said. It's so true, right? Like we have to participate in this life. And like you said, that's where the feedback comes. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Without
Brilliant.
that feedback, you're literally just, what, at least in my experience, and, you know, I've worked with thousands of humans, it's without that feedback, without that participation, you're just sitting in your own stuff. You're just internalizing and sitting in the soup of your own internal stuff, like over and over, and you're even validating and revalidating it. And, you know, what's that, you know, age-old saying of like, what you focus on, you create more of. It's like you've got to get out into the world and actually participate and get different degrees of feedback and experiences, so that, like you said, it's not just the grief or the joy, it's you're having an experience of both, like you're actually experiencing it all at the same time. And that is what I think sets us up for, you know, it helps us cultivate that ability to stay, you know, because we can, you know, it's not just about enduring, it's about staying when we're needed. And then, you know, also acknowledging that astrology is not a replacement for personal responsibility. It's not a replacement for, you know, personal power or autonomy. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, like we can leverage it and we can use it, and together with our personal power, not in separation of it.
And that is such a good point, is that it's not an excuse. It doesn't replace. You're still responsible for your own life. It's not just, I'm not going to drive my car today. I'll just get in and accelerate and not steer, you know, like it's a part. It's just like it gives you permission for certain things, right? Like it gives you permission. It's like, oh yeah, instead of, you know, and even numerology, and it's like, oh, instead of trying to do this in this personal year or whilst this transit's happening, I'm just pushing a boulder up a hill. What for? Because I can't stay, because I can't pivot, because I can't maneuver, because I can't change. But then if you take that personal responsibility, and astrology is empowering more so than any, you know, it's empowering you to be you, you know, that's the biggest, I mean, that's the thing. It's just like when you know your own chart, like, oh my God, like knowing your chart is like the coolest fucking thing. And it just continues, you continue to be revealed things, even when you've been studying it or, you know, looking at it for, you know, decades. Something new will be revealed to you, and in that moment, you know, something else lands. You know, it's cosmic order. It's, you know, what Jung talks about, you know, like that chaos, but is really just cosmic order. Yeah. Or yeah, what does he say? You focus on fate. You say that it's free will, but it's, you know, he's got that other quote that I can't quite remember. But it's, yeah, it's taking the personal responsibility and not even, you know, using astrology in that word, but you know, but embodying it, you know, I think experiencing, I think is one of the better words, to experience astrology. Because when people are like, oh, you know, it doesn't work, I'm like, oh, well, I've lived my whole life like this, and your life, it looks like that, and I would not want to live like that. So something must be working, you know, like it's just sort of like, oh, I don't know, like, you know, where are you at? Where am I at? Like, you know, like it's just, and it's not a thing. It's not like a competition or anything. I'm not saying like better or worse. I'm just saying, well, you know, it's not about believing it. It's about working with it and embodying it and experiencing it and knowing yourself and knowing your chart. And it's, I don't know, it's just magical, you know, it's just, there's magic there, and life is magic, and this consciousness field is so visceral and, you know, alive, you know, it's alive. And we as humans get to experience that aliveness. And that is so important in these times, is to feel the aliveness, to feel the fragility, to feel the grief, to feel the unbearable, to be able to look at the unbearable. And that is something that is very fascinating that I'm learning in my Jungian class too, is that A strong ego can look at the unbearable, but a weak ego can't. They're, oh, poor me, that person this, that person that. I mean, all that's in the chart. You can see those personality traits in a chart. And there's, again, nothing wrong with that. It's about recognizing that and going, okay, I'm ready, you know? And I suppose the astrology this year is asking you, are you ready? Are you ready? Mm,
Mic drop.
I am. Are you?
Oh, I'm getting there.
Mm,
I'm always honest. I was saying to a friend the other day that my life lately has felt like and this is what I would conjure up to, like feeling like I'm in between skins. It's like, I feel like my life is very much for the past sort of month and a bit been like a jigsaw puzzle just scattered across the table. And like every single day I'm like a little piece is just connecting to another piece. Like every single day I'm becoming just a little bit more clearer, and
mm,
things are just slowly every single day coming together, but it's not quite there yet for me.
mm, mm.
And that's just how I would describe my experience right now.
I love that. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's it's true. Yeah. Be
Yeah.
vulnerable in that space.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Mm,
definitely. There's medicine there for sure.
mm.
Well, oh my goodness, this has been stunning. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to offer into the space, or just anything that you would like to leave our people with?
Hmm. I think that just, I think that I think we ended it really sort of perfectly. I mean, you get me on another tangent and that's, I'll talk about more
Yeah.
astrology, more, because, I just can't help myself. But I actually feel like that is enough, right? Like that is enough for now. That is enough to digest and to chew on and to maybe invite. This is the invitation to look at your chart, to find that Pisces house, to do maybe a couple of little things within your own chart, within your own realm, in your own life, and then ask yourself, are you ready for this year? And if you're not, that's okay. It's like, okay, so what do I need to do to become ready? Ask that question that Ellen posed. Can this come with me this year? Write all the things that can't come with you this year. And often the hard decision is the correct one, as hard as that is sometimes, a lot of people in peril, relationships, all the things. And it's like, this isn't about holding on to hope anymore. Like I said, Pisces is hope and dreaming and illusion and glamour magic. All of that is crumbling. But like I said, not yet. We're still in it. The North Node is still in Pisces until mid-year, August, right? So we've actually still got this. But what is the North Node in Pisces still ushering us? The trust, the surrender, the letting go of the Virgo, analytical, not trusting, overanalyzing, over critiquing, all those sorts of things. That North Node is still sort of reigning supreme. It's still sort of beautiful, actually, that we're still going to have this very interesting, perhaps messy Pisces season to end. Neptune and Saturn, as they've ingressed out now, like ingressed into Aries and gone bye-bye to the womb, exited, bye, like this is it. The new life is coming. And then this very interesting Pisces season that takes us into the sun entering Aries, the astrological new year, right? A very big Aries season, let me tell you. But then that North Node just hovering, the dragon's mouth, our destiny point, our dharmic point, still offering up karmic juice, going, hey, do you trust a little bit more now? Hey, what is your higher self saying? Hey, how are you connected to all that is the divine, the consciousness, the field, the mythic, the mystic? How are you really dropping into that right up until August? And then everything is out of Pisces. So there's a real, we're still in this liminal space. And so, again, I think to come back and quote Ellen again is, can you stay here? Can you stay here? But then also make moves when you need to. I think that's the thing where the horse will come in and, momentum will be here. But I think land here and trust this process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm hearing is like that cultivation of learning to stay. And if that's not part of your practice, if that's not part of your experience right now, that might be a really beautiful place to point your attention and your focus into, because I know that experience of letting go and surrender, like it all sounds really nice, but you know, on a deep, if we just look at it from a primitive level, if we just look at it from the nervous system, even, it's like, that's death. That's hard. That's really primitive. That's survival based stuff there. So you're playing in, you know, pretty sticky waters if that's not something that you're, you know, familiar with. So the practice of just cultivating the capacity and ability to stay and sober up in that place, and just, yeah, not just because I know there's so much to it, but it's sort of where we are being asked to look and focus and perhaps even cultivate in that place as well. So
simplify, strip back, you know, that's the words that are landing: simplify and strip back, because as everything else amps up and fires up and gets louder, if you just sort of go in with that like you're lost, you know, this is a time to be found and to find yourself in how that looks. And for me, it's always stripping back and simplifying, stripping back and simplifying, because as these outer planets land in Aries, Pluto's in Aquarius, you know, Jupiter will move into Leo, Uranus will move into Gemini. It is fire and air and acceleration. And, you know, my husband was saying this morning, is like, because I didn't want it to fasten up. And I'm like, yeah, but that's where we then in ourselves cultivate presence, and we then can slow things down. I mean, we ourselves are magicians. We can slow things down. We can do anything we want with time, right? Like we have that ability. However, in the recent years, we've had everything in water and earth, and that water and earth has been slow, believe it or not. You know,
yeah.
Water and earth is slow, it's receptive, it's yin, it's landing, it's receiving, it's, you know, it's building. So now as we move into this era of air and all this fire and all these things are happening, there is an acceleration, there is a quickening. I do want to say that. However, if you can stay and again start to cultivate that practice of staying, if you can stay, if you can make that a practice, and it can be something very small to begin with, you know, because yes, it is a nervous system reset. Because then once things start to whoosh off like a match and things are quick, you know, it's going to feel fast. I mean, the fact that all of this is landing in the year of the horse, like it's just sort of, it's this cosmic order that just blows me away. The divine cosmic synchronicity and the dance of how it's orchestrated, it just still humbles me every day. I'm like, wow, you know, wow, of course 2025 was a 9 and the snake and Lilith and Scorpio and all of those things that took us to the depths of the snake and the molting and the shedding. Of course we had to do that. And now we're just like, again, we're still in that liminal, still that tiny, like Ellen said, that in between skins. The molting is happening, but it's still clinging a little bit and it's painful. Remember that a snake doesn't just shed all the time. You know, you've got to ask yourself, what are you outgrowing? Like the snake skin, it's not just shedding because it is painful. It's got to literally shed its entire skin, you know, and that is a painful process. Yeah. So it's like, what are you outgrowing? What are you ready to not bring in? And being really clear and honest with yourself with these things. This is the new order that we're all birthing and moving into and emerging from the womb. So we're all walking each other home, as Ram Dass says. We're all just walking each other home, right?
He does say that. I love that. And it's all preparing us for, you know, it's the magic on the other side too. So it's not all just like shedding, and, you know, we'll get to a place where that, you know, if we allow it, if we let it, then there's also medicine on the other side. So thank you so much. It has been a true pleasure having you in this space with us. And I'm going to link up your podcast, your website, your Instagram, just all of the places where people can come and find you. Is there any, like, I know you have a retreat coming up as well. I can link that up as well. I just want everyone to be able to come and find you and to deepen with you. And just want to amplify Tiarnie's message around as well, just just being so discerning with where you're consuming your astrology information and knowledge from, because there is a clear distinction for me personally when I am in your world in comparison to when I am seeing something that is AI generated or ChatGPT generated, and it might land, it might feel really good, but like I feel like that's what they're trying to get, like that's the experience they're trying to make you have. Whereas it's far more, it's just far more than that. So I want everyone to be able to find you and to connect with you, and you have a retreat coming up, and there's lots of different places that you can go and deepen with Tiarnie as well, and I'll make sure everyone has everything they need in the show notes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Ellen. It's been a beautiful, beautiful way to start my day, and my Neptune in Aries beginning, darling. Of course, Aries rules my 7th house of relationships. So here we go. More connections and more beautiful, conversations like this with beautiful souls like you. So thank you so much for having me, beautiful.
My pleasure.